joined by Chris Mills, from CEO of Evie Networks. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Thanks, Sean, for having me.
No, that's all right. Evie Networks, probably most people who own an EV are very familiar with you guys over their journey, but how many chargers does Evie have out there now?
So right now, Sean, we have over 100 chargers. We have chargers starting in Townsville in far north Queensland, running down the east coast to Brisbane, down to Sydney, all the way around to Adelaide. We have chargers in Tasmania, and we also have chargers in Perth and in Darwin. So we're the only operator who has chargers in all states and territories in Australia.
That's magnificent. And what's the plan going forward? Like, if you look 2-3 years ahead, how many do you think you might have up and running?
So our plan is to move from over 100 chargers now to being well over 200 chargers by the end of this year, to being over 400 chargers by the end of 2025.
Oh, okay, that's great. So when you're putting out your charger network and you select a site, how long is it normally on average from we've picked a site, we think a charger works there, to actually turning that charger on?
Yeah, so the journey is a tough one. Let's be clear about that. What we do is firstly, we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort undertaking what we call a candidate assessment. And that candidate assessment revolves a lot around the power and whether or not there's enough power at the site to be able to support what we're trying to deploy. At the same time, we assess the site for, is it really easy to access? Is it safe and secure? Is there enough security, enough lighting? Will people feel secure when they charge, no matter what time of the day or night?
Yep.
And then thirdly, we're always looking for some sort of amenity at the site, because you're going to be there for about 20 minutes.
Yep.
So we want you to be able to go and do something, have something to eat, have a park to go, have a rest. And so we really focus on locating our sites where it's work, play, shop, eat.
Yep.
Yeah? And so all of that gets factored into that candidate assessment process. And once we've selected that candidate, we then have to work with the site host, negotiate a lease. We typically work with the council on all of the planning consents that are required, and we're at the same time we've applied to the power utilities for the power to the site, and that's typically the longest lead time activity.
Yeah.
Because getting the power to the site, we don't ask for a simple household connection, we're asking for a lot of power. And so as a consequence, we need to be working closely with the power utility so that they are planning the upgrades that they need to do to their network to support our site.
Yep.
And so that typically takes, from start to finish, about 18 months.
Okay, yeah, that's why people will see sites that are well in train, but they haven't come on yet.
That's
You haven't
right.
just been able to get that last bit. And security, I'm glad you mentioned that, because like if I think of my wife and our EV, that's one of her concerns. You know, she's not going to go out at night and connect to a charger in a dimly lit back of a parking lot. So
Sean, I could have 300 sites on air today if I was prepared to put them at the back of depots in industrial yards, round near the dumpsters. I could have sites today, but nobody would want to use them.
Yep.
So I always ask myself the very simple question. I have a 21-year-old daughter. Would she feel safe charging the car at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, it's not a candidate for us.
No, that's a really good question. And the other one would be that comes up a lot is chargers tend not to be covered. They're out in the open, we don't have sun protection or that. Is there a particular reason for that, or is that just part of the early days of getting this infrastructure in place?
Yeah, I think it is part of early days. But one of the things that's important for us is the reliability of the charger.
Yep.
One of the great things about the Tritium chargers is that they are IP65 rated, so they are actually rated for being outdoors in quite stiff weather. And we take a great deal of comfort in the fact that they are rated like that. Not all the chargers that are out there are rated that way.
Yep.
So we do rate that. We have looked at putting solar canopies on our to cover the chargers. Let's not kid ourselves. The solar canopy doesn't produce enough electricity to actually to power the chargers. But it's a good way of providing enough power to the chargers when they're sitting there idle.
Yeah.
Now, the challenge you've got with the solar canopy is you're introducing a whole new range of council consents that you require.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're adding a bit more complexity to the site, because when you start to look at putting that in, they're looking for a DA on that installation, they're looking for the building approvals. And I'm not saying the councils are difficult, they're not difficult at all, they've been great. but you are adding another level of complexity.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I certainly can say I've used Evie, and I find it one of my favourite ones to go to. So keep up the great work.
Yeah, thanks for that.
No
I
worries.
really, really, really appreciate it.